and I've been leading a class series on the wood element for the spring season. Last week we talked about the functions of the liver, the 6 official functions, if you want to check out that video. And today we'll be talking about the common causes of liver pathology. So from a Chinese medicine perspective, a lot of times our lifestyle and the environment that we're in, and in Western medicine as well, are seen as impacting our health, and as well as our emotions in Chinese medicine. So for the liver, the emotion associated with it is anger. So in health, this looks like assertiveness, just voicing your needs, standing up for yourself or others, or expressing anger when appropriate, when useful, and then letting it go when it's no longer useful. But it can get into disharmony when we hold on to or repress anger, frustration, and then it may become resentment. So this can damage the liver, and it disrupts the flow of qi and obstructs the expression of qi, which is one of the official roles of the liver, ensuring the smooth flow of qi. And so finding healthy ways to express our natural anger, it's a natural emotion, or to assert ourselves so that it doesn't need to get into that place of repressed anger or resentment, is key. So either, if it's appropriate, ways of partaking in activism, or finding creative outlets. Creativity is really important for the wood element, so whatever that may be for you, visual art, music, dance, movement, exercise in general, is really good for the wood element, for the liver. So those are some ways to kind of channel our anger, or that kind of upward and outward energy of the liver. So long-term emotional issues is the first common cause of liver disharmony. And secondly, severe hemorrhage, pretty straightforward. Severe blood loss from whether it's injury or could be postpartum, post-childbirth, miscarriage, and it can be an internal or an external bleeding. So just a significant blood loss of some kind can impact the liver, which its first official function is to store the blood, which also covers its role of kind of regulating the movement of blood, the circulation, of getting it to the right place at the right time in the right amount. And so hemorrhage is really throwing a wrench in that role for the liver. And so obviously to recover from that, we would prevent it if you could, but if that happens, it may be a severe case of needing a blood transfusion or IV fluids. But other than that, just in the recovery from that, ensuring that we get proper rest, hydration, and supplementing with our diet and perhaps herbs as well, blood building foods and herbs. So we'll talk a bit more about diet in a moment, but for herbs, best to seek professional advice on herbal formulas that may be good. The kind of classic, most basic blood building formula in Chinese medicine is Tang, or 4-substance decoction, which contains 4 of the major blood building herbs that all work together synergistically in this formula to help enrich the blood and to help with its circulation. So those herbs include Shudi Huang, prepared Romania root, or Chinese foxglove root, Bai Shao Yao, white peony root, Chan Zhang, which is Ligusticum or Sichuan lovage root, or rhizome rather, and finally Dangguai, Chinese angelica root. So those are 4 of the most common blood building herbs, and are all part of that formula, Tang 4-substance decoction. But again, if you're interested in Chinese herbal formulas, I would advise seeking a Chinese medicine practitioner. So then moving on to the next common cause for liver disharmony, poor diet. So a diet that is not blood building in particular. So it may be low in B vitamins, maybe low in iron, or in things that can help you absorb those minerals and vitamins, and also just promote the smooth circulation of qi from a Chinese medicine perspective. So dark leafy greens tend to be good for the liver. Beets are seen as being really blood building, and good quality meat. So in small amounts, it doesn't have to be excessive amounts, but that definitely helps. The body doesn't have to kind of work as hard to obtain and absorb meat, to absorb iron if it's coming from meat. And so other important factors to consider, if you have like gastrointestinal disorders, surgery like gastric bypass that hinder our absorption of vitamins and minerals, that's something to take into account. You may have to work harder, to obtain and absorb those nutrients. Things like citrus that's high in vitamin C can help with that. Iron absorption, for example. Also, there's certain things that can hinder the absorption, like actually drinking coffee or tea, like the literal tea, not talking about herbal tea, Camellia sinensis, with iron-rich foods. If you're drinking the coffee or tea while you're eating that can hinder the iron absorption. So to have those separately, if you do, is better for increasing that absorption. So again, dark leafy greens, and good quality meat, fish, are good for enriching the blood and supporting the liver. And dairy products as well can be a hindrance if you're having those with iron-rich foods, can be a hindrance to absorbing. And then a couple more factors that can cause liver disharmony. So the next one, also a lifestyle thing, would be excessive exertion, physical exertion. So this may mean high intensity exercise. Think about like athletes who stop menstruating because of the stress that their body is under, and perhaps they're not obtaining the necessary calories to kind of keep up with that level of output of energy. But it could be for your work, could be things that you're just dealing with in your daily life that require a lot of physical exertion, so you may not have as much control over, but finding ways, if you are becoming depleted, to cut back on that exertion, or to kind of pay more attention to what you're eating, finding ways to support the liver, and support a sense of restfulness, getting good sleep so that the body can kind of repair and restore. So a lot of times we hear about we need to exercise more. So for a lot of us, that is, in our culture, can be a common issue, and certainly exercise is very beneficial to the liver. The wood element likes to move and likes flow and activity, but the other side of that is deep, true restfulness. So the yin and the yang are, of course, as ever, from a Chinese medicine perspective, two sides of the same coin. You need them both. And then lastly, the climate that most affects the liver is wind. So each element has a climate associated with it that it may be most susceptible to damage from. So it's not to say that, you need to avoid windy climates, or move if you live somewhere windy. And in any case, wind kind of comes and goes. But to be especially, to just be mindful of the climate that you're in, particularly protecting the back of the neck in windy climates, or just even wind from a fan is considered kind of a protective mechanism in Chinese medicine to prevent a wind invasion, as it's called. And so exposure long-term to certain climates may contribute to or kind of exacerbate underlying conditions. So wind is also seen as a potential internal climate that can present as most severely stroke. It could present as tremors, and can result in paralysis. So kind of, just like a strong wind outside can kind of result in this chaos and destruction and movement. It can present in our bodies in that way. So there's always a pre-existing kind of condition or underlying pattern that makes us susceptible to that. So we'll probably get into that in future classes and talking about what liver pathologies, some common liver pathologies. Another thing, or other climates that can cause damage to the liver include more particularly what's called wind heat. So kind of combination of wind and heat. And then cold, on the other hand, and damp heat, which we talked about with the gallbladder a few classes back. Gallbladder is susceptible to damp heat as well. So externally, think about like a tropical environment, and damp heat can manifest as like some kind of inflammatory disorder. or inflammation in general in the body. And cold can manifest as some kind of pain that is not helped or worsened with cold, or like application of ice. I remember one of my teachers in school talking about someone having pain maybe down their leg or somewhere around their glutes or their legs, and they realized that they had been sitting on like cold concrete in a wet bathing suit, day after day, maybe a period of years, and so had kind of, with cold, it tends to constrict, and then with constriction, pain. So it caused this kind of stagnation in the channel running through that area. So things like that are good to be mindful of, to kind of keep the body protected and warm from more severe climates, or cold or wind, things we might not really think of as severe, but that repeated exposure can result in, down the line, different disharmonies. So that's it for the common causes of liver pathology. And next week we will talk about what the common patterns of liver pathology include.